some people dream of flying, and then there are others who get so obsessed with the idea that they kind of forget the most important part, landing. So let's get into the story of an inventor whose ambition was, well, only matched by his spectacular lack of understanding of basic physics.
No, really. Just think about that for a second. How absolutely, unshakably certain would you have to be? Certain enough to bet your life on an idea that has failed again and again right in front of your own eyes. Well, this is a story about exactly that kind of certainty.
I mean, you can't really get more high stakes than that, can you? On one side, you've got glory, you've got fame, a revolution in aviation safety. And on the other side, you've got a very, very specific and permanent dent in the Parisian soil.
Okay, so let's start right where the story pretty much ends, on a freezing cold ledge, 57 meters, that's almost 190 feet, above the ground, with what feels like all of Paris watching. The big question is, how in the world did he get here? This right here is Franz Reichelt. He was a tailor by trade, but in his own mind, he was a groundbreaking inventor. He even called himself the Flying Tailor, and this was his masterpiece. A wearable parachute he was convinced would save pilots' lives. Of course, looking at it now, it seems less like a life-saving device and more like a really elaborate, probably flammable bat costume. And what's just wild about this moment is the hesitation. He's up there, standing on a stool that's perched on a table, for 40 agonizing seconds. In the freezing wind, you can almost feel the doubt start to sink in. And there's a film crew right there, rolling, capturing every single second of this awful pause. To really understand those 40 seconds of doubt, we've got to rewind, because this wasn't Reichelt's first rodeo. It was just, gonna be his last. So let's take a look at the so-called genius behind this suit. His track record was, to put it mildly, not great. He'd drop dummies from his fifth-floor apartment and they'd just slam into the pavement. He sent his designs to all the big aviation clubs, and they basically told him the canopy was way too small and weak. He even tried jumping himself from about 25 feet and broke his leg. I mean, there's a very clear, very consistent pattern here, right? And this quote right here, this gets to the absolute heart of his delusion. See, in his mind, the problem wasn't the suit. Oh, no, of course not. The problem was just a lack of height. He was totally convinced that with a higher drop, the suit would have more time to, and I'm quoting here, make contact with the air, and it would just unfurl beautifully. He just needed a bigger stage for his big idea. And what bigger stage could you possibly get in Paris than the Eiffel Tower? The only problem was the police weren't exactly lining up to let a tailor with a long history of spectacular failures use their national monument for a life-or-death experiment. So Reichelt, he got a little creative. And here's the crucial part. He lied. Flat out. After more than a year of lobbying and getting the press on his side, the police finally gave in, but with one very, very specific condition. He was only allowed to drop a dummy. Reichelt, of course, had absolutely no intention of using one. You can imagine, Police Chief Lapine was horrified when he found out what was really happening. He made it crystal clear that the permission was for a dummy and a dummy only. By the time anyone realized that Reichelt himself was the dummy, well, it was too late. He was already up on the tower. Which brings us right back to that ledge. It's 8:22 in the morning, a crowd has gathered below, his friends have been pleading with him not to do it. A guard even tried to physically stop him, but his mind was made up. This is what he actually told his friends just moments before he went for it. Just think about that supreme, unshakable confidence. He truly believed he was about to prove every single person wrong. That his 159 pounds of flesh and bone plus this silk contraption were about to silence all the doubters for good. The timeline of how it all went down is just chillingly fast. He shows up at 7 a.m., already wearing the suit, which, come on, should have been the first red flag. By 8, he's up on the platform. And at 8:22, after that long 40-second pause, it's all over in just 5 seconds. So let's just break it down by the numbers, shall we? 57 meters up, a 40-second hesitation, a 5-second fall, and a 15-centimeter hole, about 6 inches, in the frozen ground. Those are the final, brutal metrics of his life's work. And the result was exactly what his friends, the police, and, physics itself had predicted. The suit didn't catch the air. It didn't unfurl. It just wadded up, folding around him like a shroud as he dropped like a stone. But the story doesn't actually end with the impact. In fact, the aftermath is where we find the most crushing, absurdly tragic irony of this entire thing. It's the real punchline.
He became instantly infamous. The papers had a field day. Mad genius, they called him, though one reporter noted he probably only deserved half that title. The actual footage of his death was shown in newsreels all over the world. It was a spectacle of failure. And, in one last grim twist, an autopsy suggested his heart might have actually given out from fear before he even hit the ground.
But this is where the story goes from just being tragic to being profoundly, unbelievably ironic. See, Reichelt died trying to solve a problem that, completely unbeknownst to him, somebody had already solved.
And here it is. This is the final, crushing joke of the whole story. While Reichelt was busy sewing his flying death trap, a Russian inventor named Gleb Kotelnikov had already invented and patented a modern, functional knapsack parachute. In 1911, the year before, it had a ripcord, it had a pilot chute, it actually worked. Reichelt's entire fatal mission was completely, utterly pointless. And in a strange way, Reichelt's dream was eventually realized. I mean, today people fly in wingsuits that look like distant relatives of his flawed idea. But they do it with decades of aerodynamic research and, crucially, a reliable parachute packed on their back, the very thing he ignored in his obsession. So yeah, Reichelt dreamed of human flight. He just forgot the most important part, not dying. His story really makes you ask, where does that relentless self-belief stop being visionary and just become a fatal delusion? What is the line between a visionary and a fool?